In the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel. You're listening to In the Tunnel.
Hello and welcome to In the Tunnel. Today is Tuesday, June 26th, 2018. We're talking NHL and NBA Drafts, and we are talking baseball if we get to it. My name is Jeremy.
And I'm Sean.
And we're going to jump right into it. So let's talk hockey draft first.
So, obviously everybody expected the first overall pick was Rasmus Dahlin from Sweden by Buffalo, best player available at the draft, and Buffalo really needed anything, so they couldn't really go wrong. He's a defenseman. Then, and again, as everybody expected, second overall pick was Andrei Svechnikov. He's a wing, and everybody says he's the second best player at the draft. But where it really gets weird is what Montreal chose at third. They choose this guy named Jesperi Kotkaniemi or whatever, a center, which, I mean, if we'll get to that later, but yeah, he's like, they passed up like 5 other better guys for this guy. It makes no sense, this pick. Like,
so who would you have taken at 3 if you were the Canadiens?
I would take the best player available, and at that pick, it's a toss-up between Brady Tkachuk and Filip Zadina.
Mm-hmm. Now, were the Canadiens a team that needed someone everywhere, or were they a team that had specialty needs?
Well, I mean, you could say they needed a center because they drafted 6 of them.
Okay,
but
I mean, not every one of those centers obviously has a chance to make the NHL roster right away.
Well, we're talking about the Canadiens, so you don't know.
I guess, but I don't see them being like the Leafs a couple years ago, where like they were lucky enough to have all that talent right away and everybody perform at a high level. I feel like there's a learning curve.
I also feel like since you got third place in the draft lottery, you have to take Zadina. He's a right wing. It's not like he can't take a face-off. He just plays the wing, so he won't take many face-offs.
Right.
So I don't see why you pick Jesperi Kotkaniemi over Zadina or Tkachuk, or both wingers.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little bit weird. And just to go back, what was it? Svechnikov went to the Hurricanes at number 2?
Yeah, he went to the Hurricanes at number 2. Yeah.
All right, just want to make sure we touched on that. So there was your first surprise. Didn't take long. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Finland dude at number 3.
Kotkaniemi?
Sure. I mean, yeah. Why not?
And then, like, to round out the rest of the picks, right? Brady Tkachuk, who I was saying, him and Zadina are the next 2 best players, and it's really a toss-up between the 2. So I don't mind Ottawa picking Tkachuk there. Mm-hmm. Then Arizona also passes up Zadina for Barrett Hayton.
Arizona, of course, being a team that needs everybody anyway, and it was kind of weird that Zadina falls another spot when Arizona's clearly in and has been in a rebuilding mode for years. It's like, why not take the best talent?
I'm not like super surprised that they took a center here, and I would actually probably take this guy over Kotkaniemi also.
Yeah.
Just because I think he has more of an upside right now, and Arizona, they've been picking in the dumps so much that they have players, young players.
Yeah,
So I can see why they would pass up on Zadina. I don't agree with it, but
mhm.
I'm not super surprised.
See, for me, when it comes to the Arizona Coyotes, yeah, my fear is like you said, they've been picking in these uh, high draft picks for so long. My question is does it translate? Like the player development is only as good as the development personnel, and the organization allows them to tap into that potential. And if that's not good,
I mean,
then
I
there's a chance that that doesn't work.
but I do think their AHL team, I think the Tucson Roadrunners are one of the better AHL teams, so they have to be doing something right. But
Yeah,
I just don't think that their transition, that their coaches, I don't think can do transitioning their game well. I I do think they're able to develop players. Like you see, guys get traded out of Arizona all the time. Sure, they don't make it big, but they still are able to perform.
hmm yeah.
So I really do think it's not on like the AHL coaching staff and the players' talent. It's more on the staff's ability to help them transition from that AHL game to the NHL game.
Yeah, no, you're right, and uh, I'm. It's kind of like with the Cleveland Browns. You want to see them do well. I'm kind of like with that with the Coyotes. Like I want to see them in the playoffs. I want to see them succeed. I get tired of seeing cellar dwellers kind of like just stay there for years and years.
Yeah, I understand, but I do think it's more of an like staff problem than it is a player problem.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying is,
Which
like I
which
feel
is
like the
why
development of their prospects
yeah
comes down to the development staff.
yeah, but that's why I'm okay with them picking a center here because I do think that's probably one of their more needed positions.
hmm
Uh, because out of Montreal, Ottawa, and Arizona, I'm more okay with Arizona's choice to pass Zadina.
Right.
I'm most okay with that one, and then I'm okay with Ottawa because I think Kachuk is a comparable player. He just has a different play style. So if Ottawa's going to go towards that play style with this guy, then it's okay.
hmm
It's just Jesperi Kotkaniemi makes no sense at pick 3.
Yeah. I mean, you feel very strongly about that.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so Detroit ends up getting Zadina at pick 6, which I think is a huge steal for them. If I was Detroit, I would not expect Zadina to be there because if I was them, you're probably like depending on their needs, which I don't know much of. They're either picking like Hughes, who went next, or like Hayton or Kotkaniemi.
hmm See, my thing is or my question to you, I should say, is Zadina going to make Detroit's roster right away?
I think he has a great chance of it.
Okay, because Detroit's built their lineup for years on established veteran presence.
Yeah, but I mean,
And like
they are
obviously
rebuilding technically.
right, and obviously they have these bloated contracts on guys who like were uh, proven veterans who got overpaid to come to Detroit and try to salvage things like playoff streaks, and it didn't work out. But those guys are still there.
Yeah,
So
but I mean,
it's
you
not
have
like anybody's gonna buy out those huge contracts, or like no other team is gonna like want to overpay so that Detroit calls up Zadina sooner.
but you have this guy is on a entry level contract right now, and like I think he can make it. There's definitely slots for him, even though they do have these bloated contracts. It's not like it fills their roster.
Right. I'm just saying, like, if he's up, then who goes down?
Oh, I mean,
Because, like, not everybody has a two-way contract, and you can send them to the AHL.
yeah,
It
you
may
can
mean
still
that
waive
somebody
them
gets
for
released.
purpose of
Yeah.
termination.
Yeah. Which, it's... let's not kid ourselves. Detroit is not a good team, and they're on a rebuild. So getting rid of somebody who kind of like was just a filler role because they had no one better at the NHL level, and replacing him with a top 10 pick is kind of a no-brainer. But at the same time, you have to make the right move to do that.
But I mean,
you can't gamble on that move.
He's
one
guy, right? And I think
he has exactly
he has a really good chance of making the team just by his skill alone. It's not like they're gonna again, with roster cuts and everything, he might just make the team based on skill alone. Because even though they do have those bloated contracts, he's on an entry level, so he can balance out that bloated contract for 3 years.
And not only that, actually, now that you mention it, that he probably opens up a shit ton of cap space. His corresponding move can help to build around him in a sense.
Yeah, because again, he's on entry level contract, which is
right.
But nothing for a cap hit.
But that also depends on the corresponding move of who gets bought out.
Yeah.
Because you have to put those numbers on the books, don't you?
Yeah.
So, in theory, you're getting rid of a contract, but you're just paying it off.
But you also have 3 years to figure out this situation. If you have Zadina up, you have 3 years to figure out the situation until he needs to get paid. So, it's not like it's immediate. You have some time, but if you make the right moves over the next 2 years to alleviate some of that space, you're fine.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just curious to see how it all goes down, because this is probably one of the more interesting stories to pay attention to now, is seeing a team like Detroit trying to turn over a new leaf like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what else we got?
I'm going to talk about picks 7 and 8 together. So, at 7, Vancouver picked Quentin Hughes, defenseman, and at 8, Chicago picked Adam Bobquist. I can't pronounce that. Also a defenseman from Sweden.
Looks like Boquist.
Huh?
Looks like Boquist.
Boquist? Okay. But I think they're two comparable players. You could see them flipping, and it would be the same. But they are the next two best defensemen in the draft, past Dahlin. So I'm not surprised to see them go there.
Okay.
And then
was it the? Oh, I'm sorry. You were at 7 and 8. My bad.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And then at 9, you had Vitaly. I can't even pronounce that Russian name. Kravtsov.
Is that the right pick for the Rangers? Because they're going through a big rebuild for the first time in years too.
I don't know. I think this is a pretty defenseman heavy draft, and I think they probably could have picked one, but we'll have to see, because again, this guy is he's in Russia, so you have to make sure the contract is right and everything. I'm not sure what's surrounding his contract in Russia and when he can get over.
Yeah,
because that's the bigger problem I have with that pick is I just hadn't researched around the contract. So, what is the situation with him getting over to the United States?
You think that the Hurricanes are going to have a similar problem with Svechnikov?
No, he's in the OHL already.
Okay.
So he's fine.
Okay. And then rounding out the top 10, you had Evan Bouchard go to the Oilers.
Yeah, another defenseman, right? And yeah, again, this is a very defenseman-heavy draft. So, that's 5 defensemen in the top 10?
Oh.
Or 4? 4.
Still,
okay, yeah, I was thinking they'll be I was thinking we could have seen half of the top 10 be defensemen, and we're pretty close.
Well, considering how you have more forwards on the ice than defensemen, that's way in according to numbers. If 3 out of 5 of your position players, not including the goaltender, a majority are forwards, this kind of falls right into the numbers.
Yeah, but I mean, I know it does fall into the numbers, but this draft was heavy on really good defensive talent. So you would see you see teams like Chicago and Vancouver both picking defensemen, right? And I mean, I think they were the best available, and I don't see a full need for a defenseman aside from Chicago's point of view, right? Because their defensive core is getting old. But like Vancouver, they're losing the Sedin twins, and they really can use whatever best piece there is, and they chose a defenseman because defensemen are really good this draft.
Yeah, no, you're right, and especially for Chicago, like you said, with an aging defensive core, they obviously need it.
Yeah, and they even at pick 8, that's like already the third defenseman to go in the draft. That's really rare for a draft nowadays.
Yeah,
because
and
a lot of
go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of teams will stack forward talent at the beginning of the draft because that seems like the more hot commodity.
Yeah, you can use that probably more in trades too, further down the road.
Yep.
Because like when you get to trade deadlines and like teams need scoring depth, and all of a sudden that those kinds of things become really kind of like seen as a prize, whereas defenseman is more like a reinforcement kind of thing when you're looking to acquire.
Yep.
So, in this draft, it was a little different. You didn't really have a lot of big trades that came out of it.
Yeah, most of the trades happened way previously, and we already knew what was going to go on.
Yeah. I mean, we did have a few deals. Obviously, there was this whole Mike Hoffman thing where, like, I don't even understand the full story. Was it, like, his girlfriend or fiance or whatever? And they
Accused
of like, was it abuse towards, or not, like verbal abuse and threatening towards Eric Carlson and his family?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, which obviously was, like, extraordinarily fucked up. And it was so bad that the Senators were already trying to trade him, and they had to, like, severely reduce the asking price. Because, like, at first I think they wanted a first-round pick and
but that was never going to happen.
Right, it wasn't going to happen, especially... And then you add to it with the big story. So it ended up being that the Sharks traded for him for, like, a fifth-round pick and a defenseman. And then the Sharks immediately flipped him to the NHL's retirement home, the Florida Panthers, for a seventh-round pick.
This year.
For a second-round pick, fourth-round pick, and fifth-round pick.
Yeah, so the Florida Panthers got Hoffman and a seventh-round pick, and they get next year's second-round pick from Florida. This year they got the fourth-round pick from Florida and the fifth-round pick from Florida.
Yeah, so that dude's career is probably going to be over. I wouldn't trust that he's going to be on a roster for a long time.
And then the other thing to happen was the Avalanche got Brooks Orpik and Philip Grubauer from the Capitals for the second-round pick of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they subsequently bought Orpik out, which became official today as we're recording this, the 25th.
Yeah. And I read that the Capitals may be trying to bring Orpik back at a cheaper price.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, yeah, that's the main rumor.
Mm-hmm.
Because what was he owed, like 8 point something mil?
Yeah.
And there's just no way that the Capitals could keep some key pieces that may have been up for, like, contract extensions or new deals next summer. With that kind of deal sitting for an aging Brooks Orpik. And he's still a solid defenseman, but there's just no way he's worth that kind of cap hit anymore.
Yep.
And then you had the Calgary Flames. They acquired forward Elias Lindholm and Noah Hannafin from the Hurricanes for Michael Fearlin and Dougie Hamilton.
and Adam Fox.
Right. Uh, I mean, look, I live in North Carolina. The only one I've heard of is Lindholm.
I think they're actually both pretty good. I don't like if you're a Hurricanes, that's not bad.
No, I think that the Hurricanes got a pretty nice package in return. I think Dougie Hamilton's a pretty good player.
Well, I mean, the Flames acquired, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, Verland is okay. Hamilton is... I think he's pretty good. I'm pretty sure Fox I've never heard of.
He's probably... we could be wrong. I think he's a prospect.
Yeah, probably. But then Lindholm and Hannafin are great acquiring for the Flames, but, you know.
They are. I feel like Carolina is looking to rebuild. They haven't done it yet with like Jordan Stahl and they probably still have hope for some of their younger guys like Aho, but they are probably more likely to build around like Sebastian Aho and keep Stahl around as a veteran leader. Until his contract runs out, and then try to build internally. And then they Justin Williams is still in the Hurricanes, right? Or did he retire?
Have a multi-year contract? I thought it was 1 year.
Well, we'll find out next year.
So the last trade or signing that I wanted to bring up was the LA Kings signed Ilya Kovalchuk to a 3-year contract with a $6.25 million average annual value.
All right, so why don't you give us a little backstory on that, because you probably know it better than anybody.
Well, yeah, so Ilya Kovalchuk used to be a forward for the Devils all the way back in 2012, where we got to the playoffs and went pretty far. He is famous for getting that offer for a 17-year, $102 million contract, which was rejected by the league. That the Devils then, because we offered it, had to got like some sanctions against. We restructured the deal to a 15-year, $100 million contract, which was okay, and he signed. And after the 2012 season, he's like, I'm going back to Russia.
Yeah, like I don't think that the NHL is right for me anymore. Like, I
want to be back home. I'm homesick.
Yeah, he credited homesickness. Like, that wasn't there when he was about to sign the lucrative contract. But it showed up too. After. Yeah, if you got sanctions coming at you, then for sure.
Yeah, so we were supposed to give up our first-round pick in the 3 years afterwards. We didn't do it the 2 years he stayed on that contract with us. Then he left, and then they gave us the 30th pick in the draft that year. We forfeited whatever pick we would have had.
Damn. Yeah, so a hefty price to pay for a guy who showed no loyalty to the organization.
Yeah, and like I didn't understand. Like he's like, "Oh, I'm homesick." I'm like, "What'd you do with all those years on the Thrashers and then these couple of years on the Devils?" Like, what?
Yeah, like, I mean, nothing says homesick like having to play hockey in Atlanta. Like, could you be any further away from your natural habitat as a hockey player?
Yeah.
Although I guess if you're in California or Texas.
I don't know. There's going to be a couple
warm weather cities, I think.
Yeah, like Arizona. But, I mean, Austin Matthews came from there, so.
Yeah, but, like, it's a number, like, every once in a while you strike, you hit gold, so. Like, there's going to be someone from, an uncommon place every once in a while. It doesn't mean that they can't be successful, obviously, but it's Austin Matthews doesn't make Arizona a hockey state. It's still not. It's just, like I said, every once in a while you hit gold.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I don't agree with that contract. I don't like he's 35 years old now because he had to be 35 to come back as a unrestricted free agent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him being worth $6.25 million. I mean, it's just the rink they play on in Russia is quite a bit different. And we all saw the failed Vadim Shipachev thing?
Who?
Shipachev from the Golden Knights. They signed him for like $9 million, and then they tried to demote him to the Wolves, and then he wouldn't go, so they released him.
I don't remember that.
It was back at the beginning of the season.
I could very much be wrong.
He was actually on Kovalchuk's team, I'm pretty sure, SKA St. Petersburg or something like that.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people were on his team.
Well, no, after
in
left
all the
came
years
back
of in all the years of loyalty he showed Russia after.
Yeah, but like I just don't think he's worth the almost $19 million they're giving him for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of hockey players don't get that kind of deal.
Especially, but my thing is he's 35. He's not at the up of his years. He's not at the point where we were going to offer him $100 million to stay for 15 years.
And take it from a Penguins fan who saw like draft picks or high draft picks getting paid or traded away for like Alexei Kovalev when he was 40 years old. There's always teams who will overpay, and it's just the luck of the draw. This time around, it was the Kings, and be happy it wasn't your team.
I mean, it definitely wasn't going to be my team. So.
No, I'm just making a generic statement. I know it wasn't going to be your team. Plus, all the Devils fans in the world that I know didn't want him back.
Oh, heck no.
You guys burned that bridge very quick.
Well, I mean, he's still a good player. I don't think he's great, but I just think the way he left makes me not want him back. Not the type, like, he's a good player. It would be good to have him on the team. I just wouldn't want him back due to how the situation around how he left. But then again, he did save us from like that crazy rule that Vancouver is about to suffer from because of Luongo and their dumb contract that was long.
No, but wasn't there something last year when like the rumors first came in about Kovalchuk wanting a return, or like a couple years ago, and didn't the Devils like have a meeting with like players and stuff about like if they wanted him back or not? No, because at that point in time they had his rights. Yeah,
well, no, I mean it was always going to be trade. We would have teams would have to trade us for his rights.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was a point where we would take him back at all.
Okay, so I got that part wrong. Because you never know, because they were turning over the roster at that point in time. There could have been enough of like a fresh look in the organization that those players didn't know what happened.
You're Ray Shero, right? What's the impression you want to make on the fan base?
Win now.
Does that include signing Kovalchuk?
I mean,
against all your fans?
I mean, see, that's the thing is we both are fans of teams that Ray Shero has been the GM of, and for the Ray Shero that ran the Penguins, yes, but for the Ray Shero that's running the Devils, no.
At least not this early in his GM term at the Devils.
I mean, he's not afraid to make a splash. I don't think it.
Oh no, but I think his moves have been well calculated so far.
Yes, so far.
And I mean, you have to be that calculated when you're getting into a new team, right?
Yes, you absolutely have to be, and
so
I applaud him for actually being able to do that. I did not think he was going to be able to hold on.
But he's not in the position where he would make that decision, right? He's not tenured at the Devils for a long time, so
good.
Then he's more worried about building the team rather than splashing for a playoff spot right now. He even said that when he first came.
Yeah.
So
And you guys got a better
Kovalchuk-
version of him than we had.
Yeah, but Kovalchuk would be against his ideals at that point.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. There's two different Sheros. Huh?
Well, I mean, there has always been two different Sheros. The one at the beginning of the GM term and the one at the end.
Oh, I think he wasn't the GM when they were drafting in Pittsburgh, when they drafted Fleury and all those other guys.
But you guys had, like, multiple number one picks.
We did, but Shero wasn't the GM.
Yeah, but I mean, it was not hard to be your GM during the draft at that point.
Right, but it was Craig Patrick or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He had been there like from the 90s, and then after a while it was like he was kind of like an outdated figure.
Yep.
Anyway, you got anything else for hockey?
Well, no, I just because the Devils are my team, I just wanted to, talk about like their draft performance.
Go for it.
So yeah, the Devils, they had the 17th pick in the first round, and we used it to pick Ty Smith, a defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, like again, how I said this draft was heavy on defensive talent. I really didn't think Ty Smith would drop down to 17. I always think he'd be picked around like 14, 13, because he's that good of a player, right? He has a pretty good two-way game for being one of the youngest players draft eligible in the WHL.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a pretty good offensive upside too. So he can like maybe give him a year in Binghamton. Maybe he makes the team. You never know. But again, I think he's ready to come to the NHL in a maximum after one season in the AHL.
It's not a bad, not a bad draw at all.
Yeah, and then we didn't have picks in the second or third round. We traded them to make the playoffs. I don't mind because we had like 9 picks last year.
Yeah.
And we used it to pick another defenseman, Xavier Bernard, who is actually like, I think he's also a steal. Like, there's so many good defensemen that I thought would go earlier that I was thinking Xavier Bernard might not last the third round. And we got him in the middle of the fourth. And, I mean, I think he needs more work, but you give this guy like 2 years, 3 years, and he can make like a third pairing.
Sounds like a lot to be optimistic about.
Yeah. And then then we picked up a goalie because we lost one of contract expired on one of our goalies, Eddie Lack. So no problem there. And then we kept up our tradition for the past 3 years of drafting some guy named Igor. So yeah, draft was overall pretty good.
I'm sorry, that's a trend?
Well, yeah, for the past 3 years, we've drafted some guy named Igor.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Igor.
Igor, Yegor. Exactly.
Okay. I was going to say, there's t-shirts to be made if it's Igor.
No.
Just 3 Igors, and just set it up like a young Frankenstein poster.
Yeah, and this guy, I think he's under contract in the KHL for next season, but not after that, so he might come over. We don't know.
Oh, we'll find out in due time.
Yep.
But, I mean, drafted a little later, so I think you can be a little more patient with him.
Yeah, but also, again, he's from Russia, so you're, unless you're Ovechkin, you're not getting picked really high because you don't know how the contract situation with the KHL is going to work out.
Yep, a regular Kovalchuk.
Yeah. So, draft value of Russians in the NHL draft does tend to take a small hit due to that fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's enough evidence to prove that.
Yep. So,
right.
I mean, that's
what
what
I
want to talk about.
All right, I didn't pay too much attention. The Penguins drafted some dude in the second round who I don't know if it was like an OHL team or some other team.
They actually had 2 picks in the second round.
Yeah, they did. And kudos
WHL.
to them for valuing the second round more than the first round. But like one of the guys that they drafted, I guess the year before, they drafted like his best friend. So got to see the behind the scenes of that, like just in typical hockey guy fashion. They're just like, oh, that's crazy. Like, and this is like kind of verbatim. Like, I was like, I can't believe this is happening. That's crazy. And there's absolutely no emotion to it. And then that was basically the whole dialogue. It's like, oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't believe this is happening. Yeah.
They picked up a guy in the second, third, or the final third of the second round. So 2022, pick 22 of the second round. Defenseman. Should be pretty good defenseman. But, like, again, the defensive talent this year was really up there. So
yeah,
you'll probably see a good amount of defensemen from this draft make it to the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, the Penguins won't call any of those guys up anytime soon, just because that's their brand. But
I mean, he can still make a splash, I think.
Yeah, and we do need defensemen because that was like our big weakness this past year, and we tried to solve the issue by like solving Matt Hunwick last year, and I
don't think that solved it.
Yeah, no, well, he didn't even play. It turned out to be injury first and then crap second. So, like, I'm honestly just in favor of... They don't have a lot of cap space, but I think they should just buy him out over the last 2 years of his contract. He's an older defenseman who's not... He doesn't fit in our system.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, look, he was like a better player on a really bad Toronto team like 10 years ago. The fact that he's still around in the NHL, I guess kudos to him, but he does not belong on a contender.
Fair enough.
He needs to go back to a team like Colorado.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that one. They're shaping up to be pretty good contenders for a while,
I know.
probably.
I understand that, but there he's like off the ice. He's still a leader. In Pittsburgh, they don't need him to be that. And if they don't need him to be that, then everything that they need out of him is on-ice production, and he's not contributing.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
He doesn't need to be there.
Yeah,
All
okay,
right.
I agree.
All right, you ready to switch over?
Yep, let's talk about the NBA draft.
Yeah, so the Suns, number 1 overall, they took the Arizona center, DeAndre Ayton. Very versatile big man who is very determined to prove that he can belong in today's modern NBA, and that he is better than the average productive big man in today's game. Number 2, Marvin Bagley III, the Duke power forward, goes to Sacramento. And then we had a trade. Luka Doncic, the Slovenian guard, was selected by the Hawks at number 3 and was later traded to Dallas, who had number 5, who selected Trae Young. And they swapped those picks, and I think Dallas gave Atlanta a future first-round pick. So Dallas ends up getting Doncic, and Trae Young goes to the Hawks. Do I have that right?
Yep.
And then in between those picks, you had Jaren Jackson Jr., Michigan State forward, goes to Memphis. Number 6, you have Mo Bamba, Texas center, going to Orlando. And if he's any good, he'll probably get his own Disney ride named after him because the name's already there. Wendell Carter Jr., Duke forward, goes to the Bulls. Colin Sexton, an absolute, this was probably a really good pick that I'm amazed that he dropped down to 8, but point guard from Alabama goes to the Cavs. The Knicks get Kevin Knox, who was according to a lot of articles, he was supposed to be a steal in the draft, and a lot of Knicks fans are like, they're just predisposed to like hating draft picks every year now. So I don't know what they hate about this one, because the Knicks are a team that needs everybody everywhere, best available kind of stuff. And then number 10 was shaping up to be a feel-good story. The Philadelphia area native, Mikal Bridges, who went to Villanova. He was going to get drafted by the Sixers until later on in the night. The Suns traded the number 16 pick, Zaire Smith from Texas Tech, and I think a pick next year or something like that in exchange for his rights. So the Philadelphia dude who was going to go from native, college, and pro in Philadelphia goes to Phoenix, and well, there goes that narrative.
So I know you're a Suns fan.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the draft from your team's perspective?
You know, because I was watching it in the background when they had the 16 pick, and a couple picks before that Michael Porter Jr. dude, the guy who said that he was like Tracy McGrady, Kevin Durant, and stuff all in one. I was thinking like he's slipping. If they could get him at 16, then that would be huge, because like they have a point guard, Ulis, who he's like 5'9", but he's pretty good. He just really hasn't been given the full chance yet. And then they've got Booker, who they're obviously riding with as their star. They had Ayton. So really, if they weren't going to grab a point guard, then I would have wanted them to have picked up Porter Jr. just because of the versatility, and if he would have become what he was supposed to be going into college, being the projected number 1 pick, you know, when the college season started, I thought that would have been a steal, but he wasn't there. I had seen mock drafts that said that they wanted Zaire Smith because he brought athleticism along with really good defense, but what they got in Mikal Bridges was kind of the same thing, but a better quality player. Like, obviously there's a reason why number 10 and number 16 are different in an NBA draft. I would have liked to seen them take a point guard if they were really serious about upgrading at point guard. I think there's been a lot of word that came out recently. They had Elfrid Payton, who was a lottery pick a few years ago for the Magic, who the Suns renounced his rights yesterday. They don't want to give him a huge deal. They're trying to become a player in free agency and pick up some good role players to play the wing and the guard through that. So they're trying to clear up space. I think they did a decent job, and they did draft a guard at the number 31 pick who is getting pretty good rave reviews. So if it all translates well, then it's a really good draft. But the thing is because I'm going to stretch and say that the number 31 pick is essentially still a first round pick, because it's the top of the second round. And I'm going to say, you know, if 3 quote-unquote first-round picks, if they all pan out well, it's obviously a great thing. If you get 2 out of 3, pretty good. But
you're definitely expecting 1.
Yeah, you're expecting 1, but and my thing is Ayton might be the biggest question mark. Okay. Because we've seen big men in the past 10 years bust in the NBA at the number 1 overall spot. You had the Kwame Browns, you had the Greg Odens. There's reason to believe that like this is the biggest risk reward position for a number 1 overall pick. Because big man who can do it all doesn't mean that big man will do it all.
Yeah, so just this shows you how much I paid attention to the NBA draft. I just realized it was only 2 rounds.
Yeah.
I find that a little weird. Like,
Yeah, especially when you watch a hockey draft that has like 7+ rounds.
yeah, I mean, yeah, a hockey draft has 7 rounds. NFL draft has 7 rounds. MLB draft has like 20, but that's like a whole different.
If not more.
Huh?
I think it is more than that.
Yeah, we can stop at 20 because like I don't understand any of the players past like the 5th round anyway.
But that brings up a weird thing. It's like, I met someone recently and they're like, oh, someone who I know. Oh, yeah, some girl who I was hanging out with once, and she was like, oh, some dude wrote on a receipt that, like, and it ended up that he was drafted by an MLB team. And I was like, well, you know how many people get drafted by an MLB team? It doesn't mean anything. Like, there's a good chance they just went to college anyway.
Yeah.
But not to get too far off it. And then, getting back to the NBA draft, and then you have the running joke of Grayson Allen going to Mormon country. He got drafted by the Jazz, and the guy looks like Ted Cruz, Mitt Romney, obviously a Jazz super fan. So write your own narratives there.
Oh,
it's gonna be a debate, 82 debates a season. And also the funny thing is, I guess Donovan Mitchell, rookie of the year candidate for the Jazz. I guess when he was at Louisville, did not like Grayson Allen tripping people and tried to take a swing at him.
Uh-huh.
So now they're teammates. So
That's great.
you know, it all ends in paradise.
Yep.
As long as paradise is Mormon country and people are
Mitt Romney's a super fan.
with and by super fan still wears a button down shirt underneath the jersey.
Yep.
Because that's what super fans do. They show up on their own attire and then probably get gifted a jersey from the organization.
Yep.
So other than that, no big time trades happen, which is weird because in the NBA there's always, when you only have 2 rounds, every pick has some value to it. You can get some really good players.
Okay, I'm going to say something
picks.
to counter that, right? You only have 2 rounds, so that means only 60 players are picked. There have to be more than 60 good players that have a chance.
Well, that's why they have summer league and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they have all these unsigned guys who will compete for spots.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think that picks have, like, when you have so few rounds, picks have less of a meaning, in my opinion.
To some extent, but you also have to remember the roster is half the size of
it's 8,
all
right?
the other teams.
8 or 9?
No, it's 12.
12? Oh.
Yeah.
12. Okay, so it's not bad. But
It's
still,
not bad,
right?
but still, it's
Hockey
like,
roster is 20. 2 of them are goalies, so
25.
18 skaters. And they have 7 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
NBA roster is 12. All position players.
Mm-hmm.
They have 2 rounds.
Right.
My thing is, right, the only picks that really matter, in my opinion, are like the top 10, maybe 15, really. Because once you
in terms
pass
of being
that,
able to turn it in for an established player, then yeah.
Yeah, but once you pass that, I feel like the skill gap between each player gets very small. That getting a free agent who declared draft eligible instead of picking the 58th pick of the draft is totally okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look, outside of the quote-unquote lottery picks, the top 15, it's a drop-off in talent for sure. At least most years, and then...
That's why, I don't understand when teams say, oh, we acquired another team's second-round pick. Like, great, you got somebody like the 45th pick in the draft. Good for you.
Right. And in rare cases, the second-round pick will turn into something special. But honestly, you're more likely to have someone come along and become a star from being undrafted than you are a second-round pick.
Exactly. That's just my opinion, right?
Right, because the second-round pick is in today's NBA, the second-round pick is doomed to be waived within like 3 years of being drafted, and then they'll go overseas. Whereas the undrafted guy who has nothing to lose and will put his nose to the grindstone and really, surge and try to make it, knowing like this could be his only and last shot, is more likely to come out of nowhere and make some noise.
Yeah. That's why, like, when some teams say, like, oh, we'll give you a second-round pick, if I was another team, it's like, what the hell do I care for that pick for?
I mean, sometimes that trade goes down to, like, second-round pick for cash. Like, cash considerations.
No, but, like, wasn't there a trade recently? It was, like, player and second-round pick for another player.
Yeah, but I don't know who that was for, but there's a good chance that they just really wanted that player off the team and threw in a second-round pick. It may not have anything, it's a gimme thing.
Fair enough.
Second-round picks, so few of them will actually pan out to be something special.
Yeah.
That's like, you'll take the second-round pick because, like, worst-case scenario, you just waive the guy, but best-case scenario, you get something special out of it.
Yeah, but, like, if the NBA draft had, like, 4 rounds, I'd actually value that second-round pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because then the talent drop-off from 4th round to undrafted free agent is still big enough to where that second-round pick actually means something.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right.
But, like, as the draft is now, like, dude, all I care about is round 1, picks 1 to 15.
Yep. And then the other thing was Dwight Howard, who got traded to the Nets. They're working on a buyout for that. Mm-hmm. Because Dwight Howard apparently, quote-unquote, wants to play for a team he can help win now.
That's not the Nets, obviously.
Well, no, but the funny thing is that every team that Dwight's been on that's been in that position has not won now.
Yep.
So, at some point you would think that maybe he just changed his own narrative, but no, I guess he's just too stubborn to do that.
Yep.
And realize, like, his ring chasing days are over.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's all I got for the NBA.
I mean, I got nothing else. The Nets aren't making a splash. They had, like, pick 29, which I don't even care about.
According to stuff I've read, like, the 2 picks that they had were supposedly, like, very solid picks, but they're going to be guys who, both of them from overseas, and probably won't be coming in to the NBA for a couple years. Like, they'll have to play the waiting game on that, which isn't a bad thing if they develop their skills. And trust me, the Nets weren't in a position where in the next 2 years they were making the playoffs anyway.
Heck
so
no.
You might as well just wait it out.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing for them to be stockpiling talent.
But still, like, you're taking risk on guys overseas, and it's not like Doncic, who was pretty shoo-in to be a good player.
But the guys that they drafted are like 18, 19 years old. So it's not like they're, going to come into the league 26 years old either. Like, there's time. There's time.
True.
And they're not polished prospects yet either.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then we'll do a quick bit of baseball, not too much. But we'll go circle back to the AL East and the NL East. You got the Yankees and Red Sox tied at first place. You got the Rays in third, Blue Jays and Orioles rounding out the AL East.
Yeah, so I mean, it's still Yankees and Red Sox versus the world.
Yep. I mean, it's a 14-game difference between first and third.
Yeah.
And So,
I mean, and they're both playing really well, both those teams, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, both of them are 50-plus game winners already.
Yeah, Yankees are 50 and 25, and Red Sox are 52 and 27.
Yeah, and as you told me pre-show, Yankees have played less games. So, I mean, percentage points play a difference there.
Yeah.
But tied for first.
Yankees have 4 games on the Red Sox currently.
Which kind of works to the Red Sox advantage later in the season.
Yeah, but I mean,
If
if
they're
the Yankees
hot.
are keeping up with the Red Sox right now, when they have they have the higher percentage of wins, right? This equal in the win-loss differential,
Right.
which is why they're tied. But the Yankees, if they through the season, they have to play right. But if they win those 4 games in hand, well, that plays out better for them because the Red Sox have already given those 4 games, right? So
Yeah. And then in the NL East, the Braves are now in first place. They weren't the last time we checked in on them.
yeah, but I mean, also that division is still really close. The top 3. So
it is. I'm just making an observation.
Yeah.
And then the Phillies are in second. And I think the last time we checked on this, the Nationals were in first, and now they're in third.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a close division. Top 3 separated by by 3 games or less in the standings. And then you have the Mets at 12.5 out of first place.
Yeah, Nationals, though, they're on a pretty big slide. They're 3-7 in their last 10, so they got to bounce back.
Yeah, Bryce Harper's having a bad year.
Mm-hmm. And like you were saying, the Mets and the Marlins round out the division.
Yeah, the Mets have fallen hard.
Again, they're also 3-7 in their last 10, though. So
yeah, well,
it's not like they were going to do anything anyway. So they can
right, but
now.
It's not exactly a gracious decline from the start of their season. But yeah, I mean, again, tight division for the NL East, not so much in the AL East, and keep track of it and see how it goes.
Yep.
Didn't really look into it too much this week. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah. So we'll figure out what to talk about next week. We may have to have a fill-in. Sean's going to be out of town for a couple of weeks, so...
Yeah, I'll be out of town for 2 weeks, so hopefully he finds a fill-in.
Yeah, and if not, I'll just, make weird voices for 15 minutes and publish it, and it'll be like, pardon the interruption, I'll just argue with myself, and then, the episodes won't be long, but they'll be funny.
Good luck with that.
Oh, well, I've done worse things with my time. Alright, so we'll catch you guys next week, with the exception of Sean. See ya.